Hi, everyone. This is Soul Speak. I'm Talia Pardo. I'm an editor, writing coach, intuitive mentor, and life coach. And I've started this show because I believe in souls have stories to tell. And I love to talk. I love to have conversations and to hear people's stories. So it is my great pleasure to welcome today Lisa Mann Jones. She's an RN. She's also a wellness coach, a spiritual coach, a Reiki master, and works in frequency therapy. So I'm so pleased to welcome you today. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh,
I will note that we're smiling a little extra because this is a retake. We're halfway through a wonderful conversation, and I forgot to record, so we're restarting. But that's okay because that's just more time speaking to you. So I'm so happy to have
yeah.
you here.
Thank you,
So
Talia. Thank you.
the way we met was that we are both co-authors on the book Jaguar Medicine, released by Kiva Publishing in January. So you can find that on Amazon if you're interested to read Lisa's story, my story, or any of the other 28 women. There were 30 women, I believe, in the book, compilations, different healing modalities and different life stories that were shared in that book. And it was really a wonderful experience because it brought me people like you, brought me into contact with amazing women who have incredible knowledge, really deep insight, and different
Mhm.
approaches to healing, which is really one of my main interests these days. So
Yeah.
it's such a pleasure to have you here. So I wanted to start by asking you to tell me about how you started from a registered nurse in Western medicine world and how you ended up as a wellness coach using different kinds of therapies that are maybe unconventional or even unheard of to most people, to a lot of people today.
Yeah, great question.
Yeah.
So it came to me in the hospital where I worked in Tampa at Tampa General Hospital, and it was a large hospital, and I was a newer nurse. This was like 2004, 2006, all the way, to 2007. And a doctor said, let's start a committee of like 75 people and put them in a room and brainstorm how we can bring integrative medicine and holistic therapies to our patients who are struggling on bed rest, in the hospital, acute care, trauma, all kinds of things. And I worked on a high risk antepartum floor, different than labor and delivery, but I worked postpartum and antepartum and the newborn nursery. And so I was always interested in anything that had to do with massage I knew about, but I had never heard about sound therapy, and I had not heard about really color therapy or aromatherapy. And there was a doctor who was a cardiologist, and she started this program and brought women who were on bed rest in preterm labor to this therapy room. And the therapy room provided them 1 hour of a healing frequency, a sound, music, headphones, and aromatherapy, color. It was a very beautiful room. It had like low lighting, and she did a meditation with them. And I didn't really know what was going on in there because I had to stay back on the floor and take care of the other patients. But I talked with her, and I became kind of like she was a mentor to me. And I learned that way. There are many modalities, over 50 modalities in some of the books that I've studied, that nurses and physicians can integrate into everyday medicine. So
That's amazing, and it's so unique that and really unusual that a doctor in a hospital would be even interested. And maybe that's my own stereotypes around medicine and hospitals, but that they'd be interested in exploring and incorporating these kinds of therapies into their practice. I mean, that's not my experience with the hospital world. So it's so nice to hear that there are doctors out there who have taken that kind of initiative.
yeah, and that was 2004 to 2006. So imagine
So,
where they are now. And Sarasota, Florida is one of the biggest, meccas for alternative medicine. And that's actually where I'm from. And I live out here in Northwest Arkansas. So we're cultivating that same approach with whole health. We look at a person, in a holistic, their whole body, not just their, physical body, to heal, for true healing.
Right, because the stereotypical or the common experience of
Mm,
going to the doctor, which has been mine too, unfortunately in a lot of ways, is I've had to explore and discover the issues with my own health on my own. Because when I
mm,
would go to my doctor, you do the blood tests and they're like, everything's within the range, nothing's wrong with you. I don't know what to tell you. Have an
right.
antidepressant, or here's some sleep meds. And at a loss, and I know not all doctors are like that, of course, but it
Right.
does seem to be a prevailing experience. And so
Yeah.
this seems like it gives the patient a voice, right? To say like, okay, this all might be in line, but I still don't feel right, or there are still these things happening to me.
Yeah, exactly. They have a voice, they're empowered, they feel safer in a way. That when they came back from this experience of 1 hour, they looked great. They had
That's
hope.
amazing.
It just does something to the spirit. We're so much more than the physical body, and we have these layers to us.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of providers and medical people in the community, they know this. They just need an outlet to be able to teach it and practice it and actually get certified and trained properly. And so we want to integrate it into more curriculums. And I've written, curriculums for medical, and I was like, this is a little dry, but but the thing is we want to teach people there are a blend of things that can work. It's complementary, and there's actually a term. It's complementary alternative medicine, called CAM. That's the actual
Mm,
term that my book, in nursing school, when I got my master's degree, that I had to read it from A to Z, and it was like 50
wow,
modalities.
that's
And I
amazing.
said, why don't they teach this to everyone? It just seemed like we should all be getting that teaching.
Absolutely. And so much different. Imagine teaching the medical student, having
Hmm.
that incorporated into their, medical degree certification program, as
Hmm.
opposed to as a doctor having to then come to learn it and find ways to integrate it into what they've already learned and practiced for a long time.
Yeah, because it's
So,
about the attitude. It's about that openness. And why is it that these things have worked for thousands of years in India, or Ayurvedic medicine? Like there's things to be said about it, and there are articles. But what you have to do is realize that sometimes they're not tested in the way that's accepted in a longitudinal study with
mm,
a certain number of people. And they just have it based on observational studies. So the medical community is something that is near and dear to my heart, but at the same time, it would behoove them if they would be open-minded to the complementary alternative medicine blending, because that's what the patient is asking for now in 2022.
right. And none of this discussion is in any way to undermine or be derogatory to Western
Oh, right.
medicine at all, because there's so
Right.
much good there. It's like you
Yeah.
said that, my partner says it often, is
Yeah.
that, the way to life is adding. You
Adding.
don't have to
Adding.
change, you don't have to
Yeah.
you do need to add
Add.
sometimes.
That's
Yeah.
right. And so if we offer that, the hospital knew in 2004, if we offer this, our patients do better. And
Right.
that's the mission, is like helping our patients do better with better outcomes, and having that kind of patient-centered approach. I think more hospitals and more medical communities and coaches and health coaches, they're pairing up with doctors
Mm,
now. Have you noticed a huge trend, right, in
yeah.
health coaching?
That's right. And
Yeah.
into, functional medicine, integrated functional medicine clinics, at least that's what they call it here. I know
Yeah.
it's similar to integrative medicine, right? So
Right.
it's that combination of different professionals that have all of their experience in different areas, and then they can come together and give their perspectives.
Exactly. And it's
Yeah,
so helpful. And I've seen patients do so well in that way. And sometimes people maybe don't have that in their area. So
right.
hopefully this reaches
Yeah.
people who know, okay, there's other pathways for that.
There are, yeah, and it's something that, I think unless you're looking for it, sometimes it doesn't
Mm.
come across your desk, I mean, I had no idea
Mhm.
about it until recently in the last couple of years when my doctor kind of gave up on me a bit, and I gave up on myself in a way, in the sense of like, I didn't know what else to do, and slowly started just exploring by reading online and talking to people and starting to put things together for myself. And then I'd be like, oh, is there a clinic like that around me? So
Yeah.
it is great. I'm so happy that we're talking about this for anybody who's watching and listening, that there are options out there. You're not crazy. You're not there. The way you feel is real.
Yeah.
And just to know that somebody believes you is so important, right? In
Yeah.
itself, it almost helps you bear whatever you're experiencing, and not feeling so desperate, and just knowing that somebody can go, oh, I totally get that. They're not questioning your sanity at all, right? So
Right. And also educating the doctors, because I work with a lot of doctors, and I'll write up a plan for someone. I understand their medications, and I'll write recommendations, and it goes through their provider, and the provider's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And like, we'll actually communicate. So having this triangle, because they know I'm a nurse with a master's degree, they know that I'm educated about it and I can teach the patient, but we need that triangle approach of, let's work as a team. And some doctors are just so busy. I feel bad for them. You want to step back into the hospital and like go get them coffee or something, like, you're like, I'm so sorry, but like, they like it when patients are invested in their health and they do it efficiently, so that I've seen a lot of doctors say like, can I send more people to you? Like they see the value in having the team to be working through something. So I think it's going to be very popular in the years to come.
Well, and it makes sense that doctors who are open to it would want to see that, because it must be frustrating on their end too, to treat people who aren't invested in their health. And so you're just trying to do either catch up or band-aids, right, to someone who's not proactive. And that must be in itself disheartening, because the track or the trajectory they're on, and you can do your best in all of your recommendations, but if the person themselves also isn't invested, that you're going to end up seeing them later down the line in a worse situation, right? So
absolutely, yes. And that's important, because we can say something and it takes maybe 3 to 8 times before someone really is ready to make changes. And sometimes the one time I don't ask them, oh, did you want that smoking cessation handout, or did you want that weight loss support group? And the one time I don't ask that, they're like, hey, today I'm ready. So it's wonderful how it works.
Everyone has their own path, right? And their own timeline on when they're ready, and it can incorporate or adjust and move forward to the next stage.
Right. And so in that way, they have to kind of either stay with that doctor, or it's helpful if they have that other, wellness person, whether it's in the clinic or not. I just love being virtual, because I have an office, but I also love seeing people all over the place, because I find that in some places they don't have integrative medicine providers, and that's really, going to change. I think it's going to change.
I hope so too. I've seen a few functional medicine clinics here in Montreal, but very few. And because we're on socialized medicine here, those clinics are not. So they tend to be pretty expensive.
Self-pay.
So, yeah, right. Yeah, basically. We don't really, you pay through your paycheck, and then all the other services are free. People don't realize we've already paid for all of it. But anything outside that system tends to be very expensive. So it would be great to see more and more of that around, because then maybe it can also just become more affordable, because the supply is better, right? So
right. Oh, that's a great point. Yes. Well, I hope to see that soon, because health coaching and wellness coaching can tag along with, so many things: diabetes, fertility, mental health. There's so many areas. So I just really see amazing women coming forward and like saying, this is what we do better with, and men, but I work with women primarily.
Well, I mean, the nice thing when you said about the virtual is that even in an area like mine, where there isn't necessarily a huge, options of resources, virtual makes it that, I can reach you in Arkansas, and you can help treat me So it's you really we're really expanding the reach of those resources. So I
Sure.
wanted to ask you, because we were talking about this earlier in our discussion, you said
Mhm.
something that really intrigued me, where what you were seeing
Mhm.
was the emotional link to
Mhm.
people's medical conditions.
Yes. And, this was like a subconscious thing that was going on because at
Mhm.
first I was wondering, is this true? Like, is this what I'm seeing? And then, no, it would be that certain um, cases or certain conditions seem to have these emotional patterns. For example, PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, seemed to be that when I would talk with these different patients, that they may not have any relationship with their father, or that
Mhm.
they may not have a good relationship, or they may be estranged from their father. Now, this wasn't everyone, but I started thinking maybe something happened a long time ago. So I started reading, and it said, emotionally, there's things that happen that are energy patterns. And I thought, well, what are those? So one thing led to the other, and there are conditions that follow a certain emotional pattern. And I wasn't sure why at the time, but little did I know that was the stepping stone to get me to where I am today. So
And how did that work for you? Although I have other questions, even just about what you just said. My mind runs with like a million questions with everything you say. So tell us first about how that was the stepping stone, and then I'm going to ask you some other questions about those links that you saw.
Sure, it's kind of fun. So the girls at the hospital where I worked, in the nursery and with the women's health unit, they said, "Hey, Lisa, we're doing this Reiki class. Can we need a guinea pig? Will you be our person to give us feedback? And you don't have to do anything. You just have to sit there." And I was like, okay, I don't know really what you're doing. She said, well, nurses have this uh, kind of thing called the Holistic Nurses Association. And so they had a course on Reiki, and these nurses took it, but it was Nurses Healing Touch. And so I said, all I have to do is sit there. And they're like, yeah. And it was very relaxing. So my first experience with it was as like a participant of receiving this energy from their hands.
Mm.
And I did not know about that at the time. This was like 2006. And slowly but surely, 15 years later, I became a Reiki master. So it didn't really hit me until I'm a little slow. It didn't really hit me until I opened my coaching practice in 2017. And I started learning Reiki that many years later, just because the nurses had planted this seed, this is really something that people can do. And nurses started getting together in the operating room before surgeries and doing Reiki and healing touch on the patient. And there's studies that the surgery is better afterwards. Wound healing is better, incision is better, drainage is better, vital signs are better, everything is better. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And just the fact that it is happening in in the operating rooms.
Yeah.
Um, that's incredible. I mean, I've been through 3 surgeries in the last 2 years, so there was none of that there,
None of
which
that.
is
Well,
really nice,
we need
no,
to. Yeah.
that's incredible. And
Yeah.
the nurses, I think the universe, planted the seed for you and gave you that experience so that later you'd be ready to move forward with it.
Yeah, and I didn't even really think about it for that amount of time. I was busy doing other things. I worked in mental health. So after labor and delivery for 9 years, I went to another hospital and worked with veterans. And I worked in the mental health clinic, psychiatric conditions, PTSD, schizophrenia, bipolar, all kinds of personality stuff. And I worked in a lockdown psych unit, and I also worked in an outpatient clinic. And I saw people in the clinic that were really doing well.
Okay.
on a daily basis. And then you would have people who are not. So it
Mm,
gave me this picture of, okay, I've worked with the physical for so long. And
right.
now I come over to the mental world and I see that this is connected to this. And that's where I started connecting those dots in like an 8-year period after the 10-year period.
But that you're so special because the fact that your mind was even working that way to pick up on those things, right? I mean, you could have come to work, done your job, focused on your patients, and that's it, right? Like
Yeah.
there's so many people out there who that's how they operate, and there's no outside thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like this was your path from the beginning because you're already oriented towards looking for the best for your patient and putting connecting the dots, like you said, really putting the pieces together and being
Mm-hmm.
able to solve the puzzles for all of these people.
And the most common one that I could
Mm,
not get over, I was like stumped on it. I kept seeing women who were diagnosed with panic disorder and
mm,
generalized anxiety disorder. So if someone's listening and they have anxiety or they have panic disorder, like I would literally look right back to their history. Like they were my patient. So I was doing a chart review, working with the doctor at work, you know, and I had to see them and I had like what, 8 minutes, and then they have to see the
right.
doctor for 8 minutes. So you've got a 16-minute window to correct medications and monitor, you know, all this stuff. And
Which is really
I
hardly any time to know anything, right?
yeah,
Like to
time is
pick up
like,
on it.
and I saw hysterectomy, I saw hormone imbalance, I saw PCOS, I saw endometriosis, and I said, could this be the root cause of hormonal imbalance? Panic disorder is just a symptom. It's just a
Mm,
symptom of what was really going on. So then I started like being like Nancy Drew and really thinking. I was really thinking, and I said, I'm going to become a coach
mm,
because I don't know how to work with these people other than give them the medication the doctors ordered. I mean, I was just following exactly to a T, like what was going on. But my mind, then the mental kicked in, and I was like, I could bridge the gap for these people, but I really can't. And
mm.
so I opened my own practice, and now I work with providers on an individual basis through my coaching practice to review everything, write recommendations, and then connect those dots for women.
Right. And you found holistic therapies
Mm-hmm.
or alternative therapies to be able to address a lot of those issues that you were seeing. For example, like the ones that you listed now with women and their
Mm-hmm.
hormonal balances and the
Mm-hmm.
PCOS and endometriosis, which is all incredibly linked. And I've also read that, PCOS is often linked with diabetes because they're all hormonal imbalances, right? But people don't
Yeah.
realize that even like insulin and cortisol, they're all different kinds of hormones. We think
Yeah.
estrogen and testosterone, and that's your hormones, but there's so many more in the
Oh,
human
and
system.
it's just like a thing where women are supposed to be in nature. And if
Mm,
you take women out of nature, then
wow.
their hormones start getting off. And we sit under like these fluorescent lights in a cubicle and think that this is supposed to be our life. And I can tell you that when women turn off the stress response
Mm,
and go out in nature and meditate, and now that's not the only answer,
right.
but that lifestyle change alone turns off that fight or flight, go
Really.
masculine, the
Wow.
masculine. Mm-hmm.
Wow. So
And
that's so interesting. I've come recently to my own feelings of a need to get out of the city. I mean, we're talking about like
oh,
hundreds of millions of women who are in cities, right? Like there's hardly any
oh,
nature. If you're lucky, if I have like maybe 10 plants in my house, right? Like and even that, they're all individual. And from what I've read about plants, they need to be together, right? They need to have their roots intertwined with each other. They nurture each other. There was this amazing book that I read, Hidden Life of Trees, which is how they really do. I love that book, right? Like
me
it's taught me so
too.
much. So right. I mean, that explains so much about plant life, but
Yeah.
how many of us are around? I think I have a tree outside my house. Like that's it for women who are stuck or not getting out into the countryside anytime
Mhm.
soon. How
Yeah.
do we approach that? Like how do we compensate for that?
Yeah, the compensation is through sound and frequency, I
Okay.
find. And
Okay.
so if we can get to that frequency of nature, and Mother
Mhm.
Earth vibrates at a 432 to 528 hertz, like
Okay.
it's a energetic
Mhm.
vibration. And when we can vibrate our bodies at that level, it's called coherence.
Okay.
And energy devices, there's many of them. I happen to have one type, have this 528 frequency of nature. So you've probably heard of like earthing shoes or earthing mats, or like mats that you lay on.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, so it's the same concept. They have like earthing, they have grounding, and then they have like magnetic jewelry or something like that, right?
Okay.
It all kind of falls into the same realm of frequency. So when women can change their frequency and make that the frequency of the earth, and it goes
Oh,
into their body, our cells want to vibrate like that.
that level. Right. And respond,
Yes.
and the way our bodies function, and it doesn't promote the imbalance. It's so amazing because,
Right.
everything you're saying, I reflect on it's my own personal my life and my health and
Mhm.
my experiences. But I,
Mhm.
I have two young daughters, and I see,
Mm.
so it's terrible. There are days where I don't know how to help them. They're young, and I
Yeah.
see so much already,
Yes.
happening to them where I'm like, oh, this is this,
Yes.
the
Hormones.
anxiety and so that's it, right? So it's so
Yeah.
wonderful to be learning all of this from you because
Yeah.
um,
The
I,
frequency is
I'm
high.
I'm going to be in touch with you later, about like how I can help pass this on for my daughters because that's the thing too, right? Like how many of us knew
Yeah.
any of this when we were young, right? Where a lot of us are
Yeah.
coming to this later in life and doing, damage
Right.
control, right?
Damage control. Yes, it's like working backwards. It's harder to paddle up a backwards in a river. That's how
Exactly.
a lot of women feel. Yes.
Right. So, and the way I feel is like part of my calling has been to learn to heal. I think that there's like energetic stuff going on with your screen. Yeah,
There
there
is.
part of it has been a call to heal myself and called to help heal others. And most
Yeah.
importantly, if I can help heal my daughters,
Yeah.
that's the the bone ultimate trophy for
Um,
me. But yeah, so it's just so um
hmm.
the word enthralling is coming to my head, but it's not the word. I've got like Alzheimer's sometimes with words, and words are my life, right? And then sometimes the words don't come. So it's fascinating to me. So what I wanted to ask you too, when you said about the link between women and their relationships with their fathers and
Mhm.
the hormonal imbalances, which are part of the female hormonal system, right? The PCOS and endometriosis.
Yes, absolutely. The female system.
So two questions came to mind. One is, would then the like, would you take a theory of a woman's biological health
Hmm.
directly related, and like women need to have healthy relationships with their father, not
Hmm.
just so that for their emotions, but also for
Hmm.
their physical health?
Yeah, it kind of goes back to, I almost want to say psychology, because people can
Mm,
relate to that so well. Is that in psychology, we look at Erik Erikson and
mhm.
we look at his stages of development. And, like we can think about it makes sense because he took his model from Sigmund Freud.
Right.
So a lot of the times, this um, isn't too far off from what we already know in
Okay.
psychology, but we take it to a different level. We take it like into physics, and we take it into frequency measurements like quantum physics.
Mm,
And that's where people get lost, because when I went to high school, and tell me if this is what happened to you or anyone who watches this, we only knew about like the electron and
mhm.
the neutron and the proton, right?
Right. Yep. That was
So
it.
like now, fast forward 20 years, they've discovered other particles like under that level.
Right.
And I missed that. I didn't
Right.
get that in.
Yeah. Yep. That's it.
So since they know that, since that is like a proven thing, they can measure that now.
Okay.
And it produces on a it's like, have you ever heard Morse code?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it produces like that energy of like sadness in your heart,
Mm.
produces for many people a pattern,
Right.
and it's their bioenergetic blueprint.
Right.
So that is what energy we give out that can be measured in frequency. So there's devices that can measure your frequency, and it looks it up in like its back office, right? And it
Okay.
says that Morse code that I'm picking up on in this device, you know,
Mm.
is a is like a Morse code, and that refers to this page in the encyclopedia, which is grief
Wow.
or hormone imbalance. Like it can
Right.
actually tell us what it's picking up because someone has understood already that frequency and programmed it. So it's like picking it up, and then it can actually send the correcting frequency for hormone imbalance.
It can deliver it in the same
Yep.
machine.
It
So what's
yep,
the name
it
of, is
scans.
that the Healy machine that you were telling me about, the Healy device?
Yes, this one's the Healy, and there's other machines that other providers have. This is the one that I like to use, and I've tried other ones. I'm very open to all frequency material and education because I feel like providers and LIPs, licensed independent practitioners, which could be chiropractors, acupuncturists, massage therapists, nurse practitioners, anybody who has a clinic, they really should know that adding frequency therapy to their patients or their clients is going to excel their post-op healing time, or you know, their pain. It's actually cleared by the FDA for pain. And
Wow.
so yeah, it's a medical
That's
device.
amazing.
Mhm.
Wow. I have some friends actually, I think I'm going to be forwarding. I'm going to be making sure that they listen to all of this. This is incredible.
Yeah,
And
so that
if
is the
you're
next
hearing
level.
some
Yeah,
snoring noises, my dog is snoring really loud. I don't know if it's picking up on your end, but
not at all.
she's amazing. You can hear her. So I excuse if anybody's hearing the loud snoring. That's my dog.
Yeah,
No, this is amazing, and it's
yeah,
really not common knowledge, right? When we think
mhm,
of pain management,
yeah,
it's medication, right? It's
right.
just medication.
Mhm.
It makes
Physical
me
therapy. Mhm,
right, physical therapy makes me think of, my ex-husband unfortunately had suffered a very bad injury to his arm,
mhm,
and he
mhm,
developed um, a condition called, now let's see
mhm,
if I can remember it.
mhm,
Oh, now of course I'm blanking on it. It's
mhm,
basically it's basically
mhm,
the sympathetic nervous system
mhm,
has gone haywire.
mhm.
And so
Yeah.
it's PC, oh no, not PRS, something like that.
Yeah, it's
Anyway,
like a
so
pain response syndrome kind of thing. Yeah. Mhm.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
So basically, so what happened in his hand, and from the research I did, this is over 10 years ago. The research I
Mhm.
did on it on the time is it can happen from an impact, but it can also happen out of nowhere.
Mhm.
And so the nerves are telling the brain there's massive trauma to
Right.
the area, when there really is like nothing visible. There's not, and I keep looking at my arm because that was his injury. It was
Mhm.
his left hand.
Left hand.
But what happened was it reduced oxygen,
Mhm.
because all the blood vessels constricted. It reduced the oxygen circulation to the hand, to the
Mm.
arm, and the
Mhm.
pain was so extreme that
Mhm.
it's like, when you freeze with pain, you can't move.
Yeah.
So he couldn't move his hand, and what happened was it was hypersensitive, so you could barely touch the skin.
Right.
And the nails started to grow quickly, but when you tried to cut his nails, it felt like you were pulling them out of the sockets, right? Like
Right.
you couldn't even, he had to get, he
Yeah.
was getting all kinds of
Mhm.
injections in his armpit just so that we could cut his nails. Like that was the
Mm.
extreme. They had never seen a case as severe as his. Like we had all
Wow.
the doctors apparently in Montreal were conversing, we're talking about his case.
Yeah.
And because it was
Mhm.
such a little known syndrome,
Mhm.
um, they didn't even know how to treat it. Right.
Mm.
So,
Gotcha.
what we didn't know was the first month where they thought he had pulled tendons, and like there was no evidence of
Yeah.
any tissue damage. They put it in a cast.
Oh my.
And so, of course, the compression just made it all worse. So, like, I believe that it wouldn't have necessarily been so bad had they not done what they did that first month, right?
Mhm.
They created the severity of the condition, in
Mm.
my opinion. You can't really do
So
anything.
many things. Yeah. And see, that's great that that you explored with him some other options, it sounds like too.
So we tried,
Yeah.
he's the kind of person that's kind of like, just give me a pill so I don't feel pain.
Yeah. And
You
there's a
know,
lot of people. There's a lot of people like that. That's not
yeah.
uncommon, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or RSD. See, my brain just,
Yeah.
it's called RSD, reflex sympathetic dystrophy. There we go.
Sympathetic. Yep.
Okay. So we did. So they did, the thing that they did bring up
Mhm.
was to install a TENS, like
Mhm.
it was, put these electric leads in his neck. Um,
Exactly. Mhm.
Right. So we declined on that because
Mhm.
what we found was anything invasive into the
Mhm.
area
Mhm.
only made it worse. Right. So anytime he got a shot or a block, it
Mhm.
made the situation worse for weeks. So we were
Yes.
worried that any surgery would
Mhm.
just blow up this situation and not be able to reverse it at all. So
Yeah.
it's, just the topic of pain management. I mean, I went through that with him for a good it unfortunately really destroyed him and us for many years because they
Yeah.
just pumped him full of pills,
Yes,
right? So
and
he was
yes, and
on.
this is what they know. That I mean, they're not doing it's like they're just doing the
No,
best they can, you
they
know?
were. And they were kind and but I mean, he ended up overdosing several times because they would tell
Oh,
him, okay, go for physio and take some extra pills so that it doesn't hurt so much.
oh,
And then like the next day I'd be in the emergency with him because he did take extra pills and they had him on like hydromorphone and Lyrica and
mhm,
like the
mhm,
mix of everything and the narcotics they had him on was
mhm.
like, it was unreal. And
Yeah,
it came to a certain point. I was like, you guys, you're going to kill him with the pills
mhm,
because he's just trying to take the pain away. And I
mhm,
understand, but
mhm,
none of it helped because of
mhm.
the nature of the condition, which they didn't understand anyways. They were just kind of throwing it at him, like, try this, try
Yeah,
this, try this, try this. Yeah.
yes,
So
yes. Oh
he
my
said,
gosh. Well, that's a great, topic to talk about is pain management.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, so that's it. When you said pain, it's something that's so familiar in a bit of a traumatic way because he's my ex-husband now, but
Yes.
and he's still dealing with it. I mean, my kids say that
Okay.
his hand is slightly more mobile, but you
Yeah,
know,
we should get him a Healy.
I know. Just send it off to him.
Yeah,
But yeah, that had those kinds of alternative therapies been, even had there been an awareness to it,
right.
I would imagine that he might be in a different situation today,
Yeah,
so. And
yeah,
that's what's so important for anybody watching this, that to
yeah.
know that like there are alternatives to pain management other than take pills or deal with it,
There
or
are.
because that's a common approach. It's like, here's the pill, and if you don't want to, then try to suffer through it, try to find a perspective, take your manage it yourself, which is so hard when you're in like the 9 10s and 11s of pain. That doesn't fly. So
It doesn't. And, I had ACL surgery from soccer. I played in high school and college, and I had knee pain since 1997. And I had seen a chiropractor regularly. I got acupuncture. I took vitamins. You take omega-3s to reduce inflammation. I did all the things. And then until I stepped into the world of sound and
mm,
frequency, I have no knee pain anymore.
wow.
And it's not that it worked overnight. I want to say that these types of things, it's not like there's a disclaimer, there's like no cure,
Mm,
right? But the thing of it is, it's like exercise. Like once you get going, like you see the results. It took me about, I want to say, at least 8 weeks to
mhm,
really like start. I was walking and I was like, wait a minute. I was like, why am I walking so easily? I barely noticed that I was not having trouble. Like I had to really think about like I just walked and there was no pain. So
wow.
for me, it took me using frequency and sound and meditating and doing the nature thing like
Mm,
for 8 weeks, 2 to 3
long time.
months.
Yeah.
And I had to really dedicate myself to trying something new. And I think that's what people they're kind of stuck in that rut, but when they're ready, then they're like a speeding bullet, right? They're like, I'm ready, I'll do anything. And then you're like, okay, well, now we have to pace ourselves.
Right, because then you want to go so all in that it's
Yeah.
almost, yeah, you really have to manage it. But
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where how it is for most people, right? It's like anything where even with the diet or, you want to see the results right away. It's
Yeah.
something you have to be disciplined and dedicated to.
Yeah.
And 2 to 3 months is kind of like the timeline on almost any change for anything, right? I mean, like,
I guess
you're
so.
learning a new task. You're,
Yeah.
it takes that time for our brains to integrate, our bodies to integrate.
Right.
And so we're the ones who need to learn the patience, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have a hard time with that. I'm telling you, I
Yeah.
have a hard time. Like, I really do want things quickly and efficiently. I'm a Capricorn.
Yeah,
I
well,
really,
I'm a Virgo. I want it like now. I want to do it right now.
oh, you're a Virgo. That's
Yeah,
right.
it's like, I don't have patience for that. Don't mess
Yeah,
with
and so I make these little lists, and I'm like, okay, I'll
Mhm.
meet my goal by here. And it's like sometimes it's nature's plan. And what happened is I discovered this beautiful um like place of femininity and being
Mm,
with women and
yeah,
healing and true healing. As I sat in circle, I could sit without my knee hurting, right?
nice,
And
right?
I could look at these women and like see that they get it. They get like true natural medicine comes from within.
Yeah. It
You know?
does, and it takes time to understand that, and on that journey too, right? Of even if
Mhm.
your goal is to get your knee to not hurt you, but
Yeah.
that time of the journey can change you in so many other ways too, right? So
Yeah.
we don't take that into account, right? We become sometimes so focused on the goal, we just want that one thing right now,
Mhm.
when we forget that, or we don't want to understand or take into account that there's so
Mhm.
much else that can happen in the meantime, and we don't
Mhm.
tend to allow for that, right? And we really
Yeah.
have to just hold the space for it and let it happen.
It was meant to be this way. And that's why I was like, oh my gosh, I was supposed to have that because otherwise I would never have gotten to where I am today, helping other people with pain and hormones. It's like, oh my gosh, like there was a reason I struggle with that. So if my experience or your experience can help somebody, listening to this and like show them there's like this path and it's already been, like the broom, it's already been like kind of dusted off.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
just start walking if you can or call for help and then one of us will meet you there and we'll show you the next step. So,
Yeah. Well, that's it, right? And that's why, I think it's so important to have conversations and to share with people, because you never know that one person who will hear it, it might
mhm,
twig that lost hope that they had of helping themselves, or open their mind to something that they didn't even know was available or possible. And
mhm,
then, it's just like holding your hand out for someone to take.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. This is the most incredible conversation, Lisa. I hope that we get to have more of these, because
Oh, me
it's
too.
just, I love your wealth of knowledge. I love your energy. And
Oh,
what's so nice is, we often have the healing conversations on the spiritual journey and all that. And I love it. I love it. It makes such a difference in life, and it's so enlightening. You
mhm,
bring in the part that ties it into the physical, which
mhm.
is we can't let it go, right? And I know, at least I'm speaking from my own, like my own astrological, what's the word I'm looking for, a disposition,
This
where for
is
me meaning is found, like things are found in the physical,
yeah.
and the spiritual needs to be tied into the physical. I feel a
Mhm,
lot works through my body in terms of
mhm,
spiritual connection. So this
mhm.
is really melding the best of both of my worlds, and it's just,
Yeah.
and it's so informative for so many people, because like we've been saying, they think that there are only so many options out there for them.
Mhm,
And it may be not too much of a leap for them to want to try something different,
mhm.
that might help them out.
Yeah, the future of medicine, I think, is frequency merged with what we know the best. And I saw
Mm,
this lady on Gaia. She had the harmonic egg. I don't know if you've seen it, but
no.
it's thousands of dollars if you wanted to buy a harmonic egg. It's like,
Mm.
probably 20 to 50,000. I mean, who can, really have this harmonic egg in their house? It's like as big as
Right.
your room.
Oh,
And I saw this and I was like, wait a minute. I was like, I have a little mini harmonic egg, and so
right.
we're going to get smarter. Just like remember your cell phone in 1987 or whenever it was huge.
Oh
Let's
yeah. father
did
had
you
one of
have
those
first? Right.
case, right? Like I remember the big case he had to carry it
He's like,
in. And,
hello, and you're like going.
yeah.
And so I think things are going to get better and better when it comes to technology, and we shouldn't, like, we should be wary of like some technology that's like not private, but the thing with this technology is it's a personal device, so like everything is here, and we're going to see more, I think, smaller frequency treatments and more energy teaching
Definitely.
infused. And we need to start looking for that. I think really the takeaway is keep your eyes and ears open,
Yes,
you know?
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, because
And
each
pick up on
person
it.
can make a difference. Like they can actually do something by either learning about it, teaching it, using it. Just talking about it helps. And I think we need to move forward from the old model, the old paradigm.
Oh, absolutely. I think, and it's people like you who are bringing that out there that are making all of that possible. And like you said, if you're just open to it, sometimes the universe will bring it your way when you let the universe know that you're open. I find
Yes,
that's kind of all I have to say is like,
that's all I have to
show
say.
me, it's like on Family Feud, like show me whatever. And like, lo and behold, within a week or two, something comes along that it's like, oh, I
Yes.
was just talking about that.
Yes.
So yeah, and
Oh,
you say about frequency, it makes me think of what I've learned about Nikola Tesla, who was the original, one of the first ones to really work with frequency, and he really unraveled that's the essence of the universe, of our world, right? So
yeah,
so much can be done with frequency.
so much.
So I want to ask you, as we
Mhm.
come kind of to the end of our conversation, but the end of one of first of many, I hope.
Me too.
I've started a guest recommended book list on a site
Oh,
called bookshop.org, which
yes.
supports local bookstores in this. It'd be nice if it comes to Canada one of these days, but so far, it'll if you click on the link of the book through that site, it'll bring you to your closest bookstore, and that way you can find the book. And so my page on that site on bookshop.org is Phoenix Rising Mentoring, and I'm creating a list of all of my guests' recommended titles. So I'm going to ask you to share with the audience your recommended title for today that we're going to add to the list.
Okay. Well, I love sound and I love chakras. And so the best way I've been doing this little mini workshop, and I got it at Barnes and Noble, so it is there, but it's the Chakras Handbook. And I love this lotus. It's so pretty.
Yeah, that's gorgeous.
And the Chakras Handbook, and it is by Athena Parakis, PhD. So she has a doctorate, Dr. Athena, which I thought was awesome for
That's amazing. And Athena of all the gods too, right? Like if you know your Greek mythology, right? She is the goddess of wisdom, right? So
that's the fun part. So what I'm exploring is I'm teaching people the essential oils, the herbs, and the colors and chakras of each energy center as in our body. And this one has Earth Star and Soul Star. So it has all 9.
Right. I've heard it's something that's not in the common, and I'll be putting the link for the book in the show notes. It's not part of the common, chakra list that people know about. So it's nice to see that added in.
Yeah. And it says tap into your body's energy centers for well-being, manifestation, and positive energy. So we're not like making any medical claims. What this is about more, which I love, is talking about how we can have like this energy flow to where we're really feeling like happy. So it's a lot of emotions and harmonious with nature. And so that's kind of that key from the beginning where it's like, it's so much like me. And I would love to meet this author, but she gives recipes in here, like to how to make an offering and embodiment exercises. And so we're actually doing a little book club thing with this, and it's called Sound and Chakras Class. So I'm doing like a little thing. So I'm so excited. It's awesome.
That sounds great. I'm definitely going to look up that book. I'm going to check it out because that sounds so much fun. So, can you please tell everyone where they can find you?
Sure. My website's naturalstatelifecoaching.com. You can just click the very first homepage. It says schedule a session. I do consults for women and hormones, anxiety, any energy blockage all the time. Tuesday, Thursday, Friday are my best days. I also do private retreats. So you'll see those on Facebook, and it's Natural State Wellness group on Facebook for the retreats, because I just decided to take women to meditate in magical spa locations.
Oh, that's incredible. You know, when you talk about the nature, you were mentioning that earlier, just before we finish up. For me, you know, over the last year, we were able to get a house in the country that we would go use on the weekends, and there is untouched forest
Oh my
behind the
God.
house on this mountain that we walked once for 2 hours down the trail and didn't come to the other side. And so it was just, I mean, it was empty for beautiful, just beautiful. And that became really that was my like sanctuary, my safe space, this safe space, but it was really like my healing time where I'd be like, hey, I'm out for my hike. I will see you guys in 2 hours. And all I needed was to just go, and I'd kind of go off the path a bit and sit on my rock. You know, I had this great rock I would sit on for a bit and just breathe and look at the trees.
Yeah.
And we haven't been in a few months, and I feel the difference. You know, I really have been missing it. And so my cells must be missing it too. So the contact with nature and the interaction with it, you're right, I think makes such a nice difference. Health
Thanks for
wise, more than we realize, you know. Yeah. So thank you everybody for listening and watching. Thank you, Lisa. You are truly very, very special. And I look forward to speaking to you again. And thank you for this talk. And I'm Talia Pardo. You can find me at phoenixrisingmentoring.com or on Facebook and Instagram, Talia Pardo Phoenix Rising. And have a wonderful day to everybody. All the information, Lisa's contacts and everything will be in the show notes. And that's it. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.